G'day everyone, Jason Nunn, Fisherman's Warehouse Marine, Sweet Street at Warners Bay, your Newcastle Honda marine dealer. And of course Thursday afternoon looks fantastic, and tomorrow being Friday looks very, very good. Bit of variable winds in the morning and maybe a little bit of north-northeast in the afternoon. I think if you're going to get offshore, I really think that tomorrow is the pick, because it's a bit more northerly on Saturday with rain to showers coastally and obviously inland as well. And then we get fairly strong northwest winds Sunday, Monday at this stage. Probably that'll trick into Tuesday, but definitely, wind gusts 20, 25 or better Sunday, Monday. So I think you've got to try to take advantage of it while you can. A bit of an update from last weekend. Of course, spoke to my good mate Ross Island this week. They went out to the shelf, himself, Lewis and Darren Ham, of course, a good crew. 3 hours to get out there, pretty sloppy conditions, but 3 really nice yellowfin, 20 to 30 curl. I lost another 3, so there was a fair few out. They had them all busting up at stages, and Ross made a comment this morning of one particular fish that was coming out of all where they were fighting one that was a very, very good fish. And this is what we're seeing coastally. This yellowfin season has really kicked in, and it's not only off Swanse, it's right the way through the south coast. So I don't think there's too many areas along our coast at the present that haven't got yellowfin in them. There seems to be a lot more big guys on the south coast, but as Ross said, there's some big ones out there. It's just getting to them before the little guys get in. Haven't heard of any bluefin up this way yet. It still may happen, but that current, I had a look at it then, the current's still ripping down, and it's still that 21.7 degrees, but it's got a lot of giddy up on it now. So, it's in around about that 2.5 to 3 knots. Last weekend they had that nice little pool of water in about 33.30. To me it looks like the water's pushed a little bit further south, but definitely worth a look out there. And of course there is still striped marlin, believe it or not. We're almost into August, they're still there with all those yellowfin. On the farm, down towards the Texas, got some really good reports again. Kingies down on the Texas, they weren't as big as what they were catching last week. 73s up to 90s, but still good variation in size, and no shark problems this week. So that's a good sign. Obviously last week was terrible, but this week's not too bad. So some nice kings and some really nice trag, big trag and reds on that farm area. Especially that's Catherine Hill Bay Farm in particular, probably well worth having a bit of a look at. Some really nice reds down into there. Inshore, and again with those strong winds on Sunday and Monday, probably the inshore fishery is probably the thing to look for, in anywhere from around about 15 metres out to 30, 35 metres. Still getting bonito because that water temperature's probably come down to about 18, but it's still very, very good for this time of the year. Lots of tailor, lots of small snapper, squire, plenty of those guys around, and quite a few flatties. So our offshore situation looking good, even Trevally, particularly down towards Ghosties Way, some nice Trevally there, and in and around the island. Your beaches, well, it's got carved out by that swell. We knew all about that, but a lot of salmon coastally still. And I reckon the rocks is probably a bit of the pick. I don't think we're going to get a lot of swell, that is for sure. Those northerlies and that rain on Saturday is probably perfect to go down there and have a bit of a look. 9:30 on Saturday is your high tide, not a big high tide, around about 146, and your low tide is just a tad after 3. So we're coming now into our dark cycle. We're heading into this new moon. This should be a very, very good weekend to get out there. Now, the lake itself, there's a lot of birds, and as you can tell, we're down at Elibana, there's a lot of birds busting up in Warners Bay. There's a boat just straight over there now having a bit of a look. Looked like Taylor the way they were busting up. So there's a lot of surf activity. Even we're seeing it up the northern end, but definitely the southern end down towards Pulba. A lot of salmon and a lot of Taylor, but there's been a lot of flathead over the last, say, 9 days. And when you look at it, a lot of variation in size. Some little fellas, 40s, 45s, better 50s and 60s. But there seems to be a lot of them. And guys, when they're getting into these areas and holding up, and they're getting quite a few, that's typical of winter. It's typical of Lake Macquarie. Some of the areas that you go into, some of the bays and just those little edges that you find will be stacked up with flathead. There's quite a few small mulloway, 50s to 60s, the odd better fish up to 80 around, but a lot of juvenile mulloway in the system as well, which is still a good bycatch and still a hell of a lot of fun. Some very, very good brim on those inshore areas, that metre plus area. Some really nice fish, 35s to 40s and some better, and a lot of fish. I spoke to my good mate Hilly yesterday. he said a lot of fish. He would have thrown back 20 or 30 bream. So there's a lot of fish in the lake, and definitely of an evening is the pick, and all around the shoreline is the go, not only just the channel or up in Salts Bay. There are a lot of bream in the system, and July into August is always probably the peak for bream in the lake itself. Salmon, mate, they are just stacked up on that run-in tide in that Air Force channel. So with that tide around about 9:30 on Saturday, and a bit later, probably, you know, more 10:15 Sunday, an opportunity to get there and tangle with some of these salmon. I know everyone's having a bit. I've seen a few Facebook posts on it. There's just so many there, and not in Salts Bay. It just seems now that Air Force Channel area, up on that shallow edge between the markers off the big island, it's just loaded up, and they're all the way through into the lake. So there's a lot of opportunity to go down there and have a bit of a dig on the weekend. Probably have to put a raincoat on Saturday and just hunker down a little bit on Monday and definitely Sunday, but I think Monday's even going to be windier. All in all, guys, have a great weekend. Hope you do well. Looks good today. It'll be great tomorrow. We'll get some more reports from that shelf. Hopefully there's a few more yellowfin out there, but if there's not, there's salmon in the channel. We'll see you then.